Hi, this is Milo for bestpokercoaching.com, and today I'm going to show you a post-flop move in a 3-betted pot. You can call it the post-flop mini raise bluff, or I actually like to think of it as the postponed 4-bet bluff. I call it the postponed 4-bet bluff because it's a situation where you actually thought about 4-betting pre-flop, but there was something which kept you from 4-betting pre-flop, and you feel the guy has a very weak range. So you bluff him post flop. I'll show you this hand. So we make it 20, he makes it 60. I actually have a note on him as well. Didn't fold versus small under 4-bet. That's one reason why I don't 4-bet. And the other reason is that we actually can call. Like if you see, I just keep showing this over and over again, this thing. But we can actually call. The guy has a 30% 3-bet, so we can actually call our queen 4 suited. So we call, we get to a flop. What's another very important stat for this move is his continuation bet in the reverse spots. It's 75%, which is on the high side. It's not extremely high, but I definitely expect him to continuation bet here, and especially his continuation bet on the flop combined with his 3-bet. If the 3-bet is high, as you can see, it's 30, and then his continuation bet is high as well, then I know that there is a lot of trash in his hands, and it's not easy to hit this flop. Then the other thing is I look at his fold to check raise on the flop. There isn't really any really good stat in Hold'em Manager. I haven't found it so far. So what I do is their tendency to I estimate their tendency to fold versus a raise by looking at their fold to check raise. I saw Gordon actually doing the same in his scores, and it's a good stat. It's a decent stat. I mean, there are probably better stats out there. Maybe Hold'em Manager 3 has better stats. Anyway, so I look at that, and then I look at 3-bet range and his continuation bet on the flop. If I don't have continuation bet in a reverse spot, or if the sample size is really low, like here, we only have 79 hands, so there's probably not that many 3-betted pots. Then I also look at his continuation on the flop, as it's normally a fairly decent indicator of what his continuation in a reverse spot is going to be as well. I also look at his second barrel to see if turn continuation bet, to see if it might be better to float the guy, because if it's really low, then you know, he's giving up a lot on the turn, and in this scenario it's still 60, so he might be barreling his bluff again, and then if he's making a bluff, yes, it's going to be a really big bluff on the turn, and I like to pick it up on the flop. So he makes it 70. So how much are we going to raise? We can make it. We shouldn't make it too big, like 2.5 times his bet. Like make it a little bit bigger than his initial, make it a little bit bigger than a mini raise. So it depends on the board as well. Like this is a fairly dry board, even though there are, I mean, he does have some suited connectors and he could have a flush, but it's still fairly dry, as you can see. So we make it like I think 170 at max. 150 is good, and he folds. Then here's another example where I think I should have done it. He makes it 70. Well, you can look at the chart yourself by now, but you might realize that there's no point in 4-bet bluffing this guy, especially since his fold to 3-bet is kind of low, and I might have some notes on him as well. Anyway, so what do? We call. I think this would be a decent flop if he continuation bets. He makes it 90. As you can see, his continuation bet in reverse spots is 100%. So, and his fold to check raise is high as well. His fold to continuation bet is high as well. So you can kind of see his folding tendencies. His when to showdown is low, which is another good indication for his folding tendency. It's a very dry board, and if he calls, we can still spike our jack or our king, or maybe a runner straight or something like that. If we would pick up a queen or a 9, we have a runner straight draw. So actually we fold here, but I think if he makes it like 90, we could have made it like 200, 220, something like that as a bluff. I think that would have been a better move here. The other thing to note is he has a pretty high 3-bet percentage in that combination with his high flop continuation. And the other factor to notice is that his continuation bet on the turn has been 100% so far. Even though it's a small sample size, it does mean that he's very likely to fire another barrel on the turn, whether he hits or not. So I don't think our draw is not strong enough so that we can call and then raise his turn continuation bet. I mean, I would like to do that with like a flush draw or something to get the extra bet on the turn. But I think if we float here and he makes another barrel and we don't hit, I don't see any point of continuing. I think we should fold, and he's very likely to make that extra barrel. So instead of floating, I would much rather raise his flop here. Here's another example, kind of the same situation, except his 3-bet is actually not that high, it's only 16%. But we call here because the guy seems to be like really fishy. Like his VPIP on the button is even higher than his VPIP on the excuse me. Well, as you can see, he plays more hand out of position than in position. That's an easier way of saying it. So he's pretty fishy. He has a folded 3-bet of 17%, which probably it's so low that, I mean, we can be pretty sure that he's not folding to a 4-bet. Even though this hand is almost bad enough that we can we can call as well. Even though it's not in our defending range, I think we can call because we are slightly deep here, like 160 big blinds, I think, and because the guy is so fishy. So what do? He makes it 30, so we can make it like 70 or so. Actually, his fold to check raise is not that high. This is like actually for the flop. So this is such a dry board. The guy is fishy. He continuation with almost 100% of the time. So I think it is actually still a good move to fold to raise here. Excuse me. So you make it 65, which is fine. And as you can see, he folds. Also, take a look at his went to showdown, which is really low at 23%. And then take a look at his pre-flop stats. So it seems like the guy, he doesn't like to fold pre-flop, but he does like to fold post-flop. Here is another example of where I made the postponed 4-bet bluff. And as you can see, the guy's a 3-bet of 34%, so we're never folding our queen jack suited. We could, theoretically, even 4-bet push the guy, but we probably make more money if we just call. Before I'm going to show the hand, I just want to I want you to think of a hand where you once, especially on lower stakes, where you once had a paired flop and you got raised, and your continuation bet got raised, and you didn't have anything, but the board was dry and it was paired and the guy was aggressive, so you thought he didn't have anything either, that he was bluff raising you. So then what you did was you 3-betted him, you 3-bet bluffed him on the flop, and you know, you went into a raising war post-flop with an idiot. And a lot of the times it doesn't work out because the idiots just don't fold, even if they have ace high, or they might, you know, they might think that you have nothing either because it's such a dry flop, so blah blah blah. They might actually push their nothing, and then you'll have to fold anyway. Anyway, those are raising wars, really silly. I stopped doing that, so I couldn't even find a good hand example anymore since I have a pretty recent database. Like, I lost my old database. So to summarize that, here's a nice quote: never argue with stupid people because they will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. And the same actually goes for well, a hand like this, where I did the postponed 4-bet bluff, and the guy, you know, he is at a 3-bet of 34, and his continuation bet is 75, which seems to be like a good opponent. His full to check raise is 33, which is not that low, I mean not that high. And then his check raise flop is 24, which means that he's probably an aggressive raiser. So he might actually 4-bet bluff, 3-bet bluff is, excuse me, 3-bet bluff is under flop here, which is actually what he's going to do. As you can see, he's just, his aggression factor is pretty high. He's just a fish, you know. You can see the steal is actually quite low, and it's just, it's not a good idea. So what happens here in the hand? We argue with a stupid people, with a stupid person, really. He makes it 14, which is really weird because the board is kind of wet in a way, so that's probably why I thought he had nothing. but then I raise it, and what am I expecting? I mean, if he has an ace, any ace, he will probably, I mean, he's very capable of pushing that with these statistics, and then I'm not even sure if he's going to fold over cards, because it seems to be the guy who wants to play back, so he might actually call with overcards, in which case I still don't know. Well, I'm going to give up, of course, but he might bluff me off later. This is just, it's an idiot, and don't argue with idiots. So what happens, he raises, and yeah, we fold, of course. Other thing is, you know, the board is pretty, there's still a flush draw, so it's kind of wet, and then any ace, of course, has the wheel as a draw, and has 2 overcards. So this is just terrible. I have actually a few plays like this. So the thing I'm going to say is be careful with the postponed 4-bet bluff. Don't do it against the idiots.